Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Scotty Drinks Tea. This is episode 3. And today I am drinking a Xiaguan 8633 cake. This cake is theoretically from 2006. However, I am not sure that it actually is from 2006. I got this from Pour Shop, which is kind of a controversial place. I know that they've gotten in trouble for selling fake tea or tea that is not nearly as aged as it is stated. I don't really know if this tea really is from 2006. I'm pretty sure this tea is actually a Xiaguan production because it has the very characteristic Xiaguan house taste. And this kind of leads me to something that I wanted to talk about on one of the poor Facebook groups that I'm a part of. There was a post recently. Somebody had gotten some tea from eBay and was wondering about the authenticity. And of course, a lot of people said, well, you can't get authentic tea on eBay, or it's a real, there's a good chance of getting ripped off, and it's hard to find really authentic teas, and that is really, really true. It is hard on eBay and random places to find authentic teas, quote unquote authentic teas. But what are authentic teas? And why do we care so much? And I think, let's take the first part. What is an authentic tea? An authentic tea is a tea that someone is selling that is exactly what it says it is. And obviously that's an important thing, right? We want to know what we're buying. We're spending money on this. And we want to know what we're collecting. We want to know what we're buying. However, I think a lot of this whole fake tea versus real tea versus what have you is a little bit strange, considering that most people in the West, and I'm generalizing, I don't know of anyone that I know that is into tea that collects pu'er tea as an investment, as a monetary investment. And I think that's a big difference, okay? Or that's a big difference between a lot of people in the West, in the US, and people in China and in the East, where collectors are collecting production teas for investment, to collect and hold for many years and then resell for a big profit. But you need really good storage for that. You need a lot of space. You need a lot of money to invest first. And that like I said, most people that I know, including myself, buy tea to drink it. Speaking of tea, let's drink this tea. I'm already a few infusions in. I wasn't originally planning on recording this video. However, this tea is really tasty. And so I wanted to share some tasting notes and some thoughts on this. So, if you are not buying a tea for investment, okay, if you are just buying it to enjoy, then is it really important that the tea is quote unquote authentic? Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that you probably want to know and get the thing that you're buying, especially if you're paying a large amount of money for it. If I was to go and try to find a cake, for example, Bitter Leaf Teas, okay, which is a really cool young company. They have some really nice teas, and there is a tea on there. It's a 98 something. I think is what the name of the cake is for, but it's basically it's a CNNP production tea that's been dry stored from the late 90s, early 2000s, something like that, okay? And that tea costs around $200. I don't have it right in front of me to tell you. But, that's a pretty hefty sum of money to drop into one cake. Now, the caveat on that is that that's really not a whole lot of money for a tea and for good aged pu'er. And I think that a lot of the teas that we get in the West that are available to us, even the higher grade ones, to us are maybe not quite as high grade as there is. And generally, we're not willing to pay the amount of money that some of these really, really high-end teas will command. Emmett, that does the Young King Hao group buys from Taiwan. Those teas are phenomenal, you know, and there's a lot of cakes in there that cost between $400, $500, $600 or so. I have the 2006 Chuangshu cake. Great, awesome cake. You know, it's really, and I believe it is an Iwu tea. And for me, it was worth the money. But there are tons and tons of cakes out there that really command that price for a reason, because they're very, very good. Okay, where am I going with this? All right, so if I'm going to buy a tea that's going to cost several $100s for a cake, all right, I want to be reasonably sure that I'm getting an authentic cake. I'm getting a cake that is what it says it is. How do I know that for sure? Well, I don't. And I probably never will. I can look at wrappers. I can compare, you know, my cake to another cake somebody bought somewhere else online. See if the markings line up, how the little cha symbol is a little bit offset in here, the color of ink that they're using, all those things, but you don't know, because especially early on, especially in, up until 2005, 2006 or whatever, when pour started to become very, very popular, the stuff wasn't standardized all that well, and the wrappers weren't printed all that well, and there was a lot of variation within an actual batch of tea. So it's hard, and I really have resigned myself, and I'm okay with, resigned is the wrong word, I'm okay with the fact that I don't know necessarily that I'm getting an absolutely authentic tea every time I buy it, okay? I don't know that this cake right here, okay, this Xiaguan cake is 1000% a Xiaguan production. It is the recipe number 8633, and that it was made in 2006, or pressed in 2006, okay? I don't know for sure. I would not invest tons and tons of money into tongs of this cake right here, okay, in order to store it in my storage and then wait 10, 15, 20 years and resell it for a huge markup, because I just don't know, okay? But I'm okay with that because the tea is good, okay? I'm okay with it because I like the taste of the tea. This tea has absolutely the characteristic Xiaguan house taste. It's bracingly bitter, okay? The astringency is sharp, all right, and it fills the mouth, but almost immediately that bitterness and astringency switches gears to a beautiful flower, cut grass, Xiaguan, and a mouthfeel that just envelops the whole mouth. There's some smokiness in here, which you smell it more in the leaf and in the warm teapot or the warm gaiwan. It doesn't necessarily come through into the cup and into the soup in an identifiable way, but there is enough of that smokiness there which gives you a little bit of an umami richness, a little complexity, okay, into this tea. It's, again, abrasive a little bit, okay, but I know, or at least I think I know, talking about authentic teas, Xiaguan teas that I had that are over 20 years old, okay, that abrasiveness turns into a beautiful sweetness into the soup. What else am I getting from this tea here? Yeah, a little bit of rose, a little bit of honeysuckle, a little bit of pine resin and like warm pine needles, dry warm pine needles. Beautiful, sweet, fast Xiaguan, okay, that rises up from the throat and is very floral and intense. It doesn't last terribly long, the Xiaguan, but while it is there, it is quite nice. I'm also getting a little bit of again that smoky undertone that doesn't really come across as smoke on the palate, but that it lends to a complexity and an earthiness to the floral and the flower notes that moves it away from the oolong territory of flowery sweetness and into its own kind of category of young shengpu, and especially in the Xiaguan productions. Not necessarily the FT, the for Taiwan productions, although those do have it as well. And I find that the Tuos, they carry that quite as well. But just the standard production cakes, the 8633s, the 8613, and there's another kind of very popular standard recipe. They all kind of carry that beautiful, punchy floral sweetness with a little bit of pine resin and just a pure, sharp, potent Xiaguan that I look for over and over again. Okay, and I like this tea. I really like this tea. Okay, that's why I don't care if this isn't authentic. That's why I don't care that this tea might not be from 2006. Okay, that's why I'm fine with taking a chance and buying some stuff on eBay. Not expensive things, okay? Not something that I'm not willing to take a gamble on and toss away if it's terrible. But I'm willing to take that gamble because if the tea is good, I'm going to want to drink it, all right? And I think that's something that we as tea drinkers, not necessarily tea collectors, should keep in mind. I think that is important, is we want to find the teas that we like regardless of what the label says or what the wrapper says. Anyway, that was just some thoughts kind of off the top of my head that I've been thinking about today. And I've been thinking about this for quite a long time. And really, I think if you're not able to travel to Yunnan, to Hong Kong, to Guangdong, Kunming, Pu'er City, all these places, and source these teas, get to know the people that are the distributors, get to know the people that are producing the tea, collecting the tea, pressing the tea, going to all the different factories and investing in this, it's really hard to know. That's why vendor trust is so important. That's why folks like Yunnan Sourcing, Bitter Leaf Tea, Chuang Shop, White to Tea, Tea Urchin, Crimson Lotus, King Tea Mall is a great one. And King Tea Mall, again, was somebody who started, I think, on AliExpress. And now when they stopped being able to sell tea, John moved and has his own website now. And I bought tea from him, and I have every reason to believe that he believes the tea is authentic, and the tea is good. The tea that I've had from there is good. Now, if I was going to buy, if I was going to any of those websites, any of the websites that I named, or any of the big name Western-facing poor vendors, and there are others, and I know I'm not going to do a comprehensive list. I've tried to get tea from most everybody. If I am looking at a list and I go to what is the lowest price tea that I can possibly get, and I'm saying, oh, look, here is a 2001 Munghai production that's selling for $25. Sure, I'll go ahead and click the buy button on that. I know that's not going to be authentic, or something terrible has happened to it. It got shoved under a car. It got used to lift up, a diesel truck to change the oil, and it got that, all the oil all over it or whatever. Obviously, that stuff's not going to be real. When I look on eBay and I see, again, the same kind of thing, the early 2000s ripe tea selling with free shipping, so the price is already included in that. For $16, $17, $18, okay? Well, obviously, I know that this is probably not going to be authentic, but it might still be good. Did I say at the beginning of this channel that I'm going to be rambly? All that to say, it's good to have vendor trust. It's good to know there are people that you can go to that they believe the tea is authentic and they're going to pass on tea that they like to you, but that's really where it comes down to. They are going to drink tea. They're going to find tea that they like. They're going to sell that tea to you. You are going to taste it, and you're either going to like it or you're not going to like it. And I think that is really the important thing in pu'er tea and in all tea, oolongs, yinchas, dansongs, to a lesser extent, probably white tea, green. Longjing is a great example. I mean, how much actual longjing is produced every year versus how many thousands of tons of it are available everywhere, right? And everybody says, well, they have the authentic Longjing tea. Yeah, right, really. But is it good? Yeah, I've had some great Longjing tea. I had a really great yellow tea, which if you know anything about tea, then you know that's a pretty rare tea and it usually commands a pretty high price. I found a supposed yellow tea at a local tea store in the middle of north central Washington. That was a wonderful tea. I didn't believe for a damn second that it was an authentic yellow tea, but it was very, very good. And I tried it in the store and I loved it and I bought it and I drank it until it was gone. I finished it pretty quick because it was a great tea. Anyway, all that to say is that try a bunch of teas, buy the ones that you like. If it obviously is burning your mouth with petrochemicals and fertilizers and pesticides, okay, then probably don't drink a whole lot of it. But if it's not, and you're not super worried about mold, which if we're drinking pu'er, we're probably not all that worried about mold and all that kind of thing. Then buy the teas that you like, drink it, and forget about the label. Okay, so let's drink some more of this tea. As the cup cools, the smoke comes out a little bit more. It's not a barbecue smoke, okay? It's not like some of the Shengcha Menku productions that can be really barbecuey and ketchupy. Not a smoke like that. It's a pretty natural smoke. It's a pretty natural wood smoke. I think that is what is giving me some of that pine resin note from that smokiness. I wonder where that smokiness comes from in the production of the mocha, because Xiaguan is certainly, at least I don't believe, that they are buying small mocha, batches of mocha from individual farmers that are pan frying this and storing the mocha in their houses, and then they, the tea might get a little bit smoky from just their cooking or their pan frying process. This is big production tea. This is big farm tea, right? Plantation tea. And it can still be really good, and it can age really well. And I am a believer in plantation tea for the long run. I love all of these new production teas. I love really nice leaf quality from small batch from villages here and there. Really delicious young sheng pu'ers that are great to drink now. But I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows how those are going to age. If they're going to age well, if they're not going to age well. But I tell you what I do know is going to age well. Plantation production teas, okay? Because I already know. I can buy teas, maybe, that are authentic, that are as old as they say they are, and they taste like they've been aged, and they taste wonderful. So I know that these teas are going to age well, and I just like them, okay? So I don't know where it's getting that smoke, but it seems to be a thing in almost every Xiaguan production I've tasted. Even their Shengcha can have a little bit of that smokiness too. But again, it's not an in-your-face abrasive smokiness. It's very subtle. It's like using a little bit of smoked sea salt early on in the cooking process, where a lot of the aromatics of the smoke go away, but you're left with just the impression of the smoke, or like sitting around a campfire. And then a couple days later, you smell your hair or something, and you just get just that ghost impression of the smoke. The tea is powerful, okay? It's not the thickest in the mouth, okay? The actual body of the tea is not terribly thick, but what it has is a really intense and direct mouth feel, okay, where the tea is not slippery, but it has substance, it has presence to it, and I like teas that are direct, okay, it's a hard concept to describe to someone who's not maybe drinking the same tea with me, but when I taste a tea and it doesn't mess around, okay? I don't get hints of wildflowers and hints of orchard and hints of grass, and then eventually it kind of blooms in your mouth. That's wonderful, but that's not direct. That's a meandering tea, okay? That can be a patient tea, tea that takes a long time to evolve and open up, but it's not a direct tea, okay? This is a direct tea. I drink it and wham, okay? The flavor is there. It doesn't change. The huigan comes up, it fades away, and then it's done. It is direct. It's like a little tiny punch to your mouth in a very, very loving way. I love getting punched lovingly by tea. My other things too, but tea especially. Okay? Fresh cut grass, not the vegetalness of fresh cut grass, but the coumarin sensation. Tonka bean is another way of saying that. Your neighbor, a couple houses down, mowed their lawn in the middle of summer, and a few hours later you're sitting on your porch next to your rose garden that is maybe just starting to bloom. You get a little bit of fresh mulch in there, and then a breeze shifts over and you get a little bit of that fresh cut grass with maybe a touch of some wood smoke from another neighbor down the street. It is a really cohesive and sharp and pointed experience and taste, and I really enjoy that. I really like that. Some people don't, though. Xiaguan, I think, is a somewhat of a divisive tea. I think some people will look at this and they'll say it's too direct, it's too simple, it's too punchy, there's not enough nuance here. It's not nuanced now, but I think it will be nuanced later. And the older production Xiaguans that I've had, that punchiness and that directness mutates, changes, grows, browns a little bit into more complexity. Look at the color of the soup. Here's another thing that people don't like about Xiaguan. They process their teas, their mochas pretty red, okay? Now, maybe I am really not giving Pour Shop enough credit, and maybe this really is a 2006 tea stored under extremely dry conditions. That could be. The soup is decently orange, right? But the problem is that I've had brand new 2017 production Xiaguans that are just that orange, okay? They process their tea a little bit on the red side. You can see that, okay? Maybe you can see that in the teapot. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to shake this teapot like a mad person here. Really, I promise one of these days I'm going to get a better light so you can actually see this thing. Focus. Hello. Okay, well, you can see it's pretty chopped, and there's just some red edges on here, okay? Just processed a little bit redder, easier to drink now. I would imagine also that it's processed a touch redder to knock off some of the astringency of this tea. I get the feeling that Xiaguan, I mean, it's a good tea. Go and focus. And it has a long history of pu'er production, but I don't know what plantation they're using. I bet they're pretty young. The tea is pretty chopped, and I bet it can be pretty astringent. And if you didn't process this a touch on the red side, that maybe it would be a little bit undrinkable right now, okay? It's not been oolonged, right? It hasn't been oxidized part way like an oolong to make it flowery and floral and yummy right now, but you'll just end up getting stale oolong or stale green tea later on in the aging process. It hasn't been all that way, oolonged all that way, but it is processed a little bit redder, and the soup does brew out a little bit oranger. I've heard maybe that they also use some aged mochas in their cake, so that the 2017 cake might have mocha from 2015, 2014, something like that. That could be. If they're storing it under pretty hot, humid conditions, you might get some of that color, but I don't pick that up in the cup. I don't get old tea in this cup, okay? Soon, next couple weeks or so, okay, I have a new Xiaguan production tea that I picked up. I think it is an 8613 recipe that is from 2010, and I will go ahead and do some tasting notes on that and see what that is, how that compares to this. Okay. Yeah. But it's pretty nice, and it's a daily drinker. It's got a decent amount of caffeine in it, but not so much that it's going to wire you, okay? It's a little bit warming. It makes you a little sweaty. And it's definitely a quick brewing tea. Because the leaves are chopped, you're not going to get, or I don't get anyway, more than 12 to 15 infusions before this tea is pretty much done. And that's okay. Again, it's not expensive. I don't have exactly what I paid for this cake. I don't remember. It has in my little data book that I have with all of my teas. But I probably didn't pay any more than $30 for it. And that's kind of my rule, is if I'm questionable as far as the authenticity of a tea, if it really is how old it says it is, or maybe there's a new vendor that has a little bit of or not necessarily a new vendor, but a vendor that has a little bit of controversy, I'm not going to drop hundreds of dollars first time on that vendor, maybe even ever at those vendors, because I'm not going to put money down that I'm not willing to risk. It's the gamble, right? It's the poor lottery. But the thing about lotteries is sometimes you win, and when you win, you win. And when you lose, well, that's kind of the point, right? Just a little bit of money that you're willing to lose. Thank you for drinking tea with me, everybody. I hope you have a great evening. Ooh. Roses. Just beautiful green roses. Sorry, I got distracted. Have a great evening.